accept the minutes as read.
I have two more corrections. Not to these minutes, to other minutes. On the December 9th minutes, when it was being talked about the ambulance, the minutes states that I did not understand why the $8,000 had been moved from the operating budget over to the revolving account. But I do understand, I just didn't agree with it. Moving the money in that way, that's all. I did understand, I just didn't agree. I just wanted, and also then, on December 13th, it stated that I said that it was 7% increase in the budget from last year, but it's not. I was looking at that, I don't know where the 7% came from. It's 2.3% increase from last year.
On the bottom line, yeah.
Yeah. From last year's appropriations to this year's approved is 2.3%.
All right. So because you lied, we won't take an hang.
It wasn't a purposeful lie. It was, I don't know why. I didn't mean to lie. That's why I wanted to make it right. So it's not as bad as we thought. But when I was talking with the state, they were going to do that webinar, and they said that it would be reasonable because there has been 6.5% increase in inflation this year, that our budgets could increase that much. But I'm glad that ours did not.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, all right. And then the second one was just things
I thought you already did too.
about that. And what happened with the dog license registration? So we're putting that $300 back in for the
No.
town clerk postage? How's that? How did that work out?
That hasn't been handled with, between the selectmen, Russell, and the town
I
clerk.
thought they were doing that the other meeting.
I haven't heard anything.
Was it talked about? It wasn't decided yet? All right. Well, those were things that we had kind of talked about, and I didn't want them just to get dropped or lost.
Right,
So,
yeah.
okay. Then, while we're here tonight, do we have to second
Yes.
the motion to
To accept the minutes. Yeah.
as now amended? Well, these minutes aren't amended, the other minutes.
Right,
All right,
so,
all right. That's all.
Are you amending minutes you already approved?
that's what.
Yes, yes. The 12-9 and the 12-13 were already approved, and these need to be changes into that. That I do understand, I just disagreed on, that's the 12-9 one under ambulance. And then the correction of 2.3% interest, not 7%. That's all.
Did you get the response from Sue when you sent her minutes that she can't open her calendar?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I didn't see that. No, sorry about that.
Yeah, because she said something to me today about it. The way you send it,
I didn't
it's,
know.
oh, I don't,
Yeah, it's something, some
Yeah.
Apple platform that she can't.
Well, that happens when she sends me things too. I can't open them easily, so.
It's a compatibility between Apple machines and IBM machines. You
So-
have an Apple.
Yeah.
When you send Sue stuff, you get a chance to change it from Pages or something to Word.
Oh, I don't know how to do that.
I'll show you how. You have to do that and send it, otherwise she can't.
All right, sorry
Right.
about that.
because sometimes when you send me something, I get it. And then the other time, and the two of us, when you said,
Well-
It's a basic thing. If you don't know, we should do it.
Well, and two, I'm sending those things from my iPad, and I don't have that option to change things like
Well,
that.
then don't send it to me.
All right, thank you for letting me know this. I
You're
didn't
welcome.
know,
Yeah.
so, and I know that for you too now.
And I apologize too, because I meant to ask her to send it to me to see if I could open it, because she uses that Linux.
Yeah, yet another operating.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, I tried to have them there the next day or the day after. I'm sorry. All right. Well, then, I'll send her then, the approved minutes, and I'll make sure then to know that she's gonna get them.
right,
I'll show you how
All right. Well, they have to go into the other computer
to do
then.
it. It's easy.
That's what some people
easier said.
It's always easy if you know what button to push.
There you go.
And I'll make sure she gets the 12, 9, and 12, 13, I'm taking those.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so then this is just, I wanted us to be able to review this before we actually present it, that was it.
Right, there's one on here that I was seeing with Cindy's here. Yeah. When
Are
that-
you getting into some lengthy discussion
No.
already?
No. Yeah,
Oh, you wanted to go first.
yes.
Mine's a short thing, and I don't want to interrupt in the middle of something
The
more important.
warrant articles, they put that revaluation,
We completely spaced that on Monday night, but we are meeting, excuse me, Tuesday after petition warrant articles come in.
right.
And we will address that then, and we will be putting it on, yes.
All right.
It's just something we can
And I
talk
think,
Right,
yeah, and I think last year it was 10,000,
yeah,
so this year we'll make it 15, because we need to make up for lost
right,
time.
yeah. Yeah. All right, George,
Yeah, sorry.
we'll give you the
I
chair.
mean, I don't mean to be pushy, but
That's why I did it, shit.
Yeah, they thought you were-
last time I was here, you all were asking for where is our reporting on the non-taxpayer money,
Yeah.
which came new to me. So since then we've done, I think, a pretty good job. The first, so there's two reports. One is the director's account,
Right.
and the other one is the trustee account.
Yeah.
The more interesting or important one maybe is the director's account. That's where most of the activity is. And so you can see behind this, we've developed a system of tracking so that next year we'll do this as we go along.
Right.
And I understand, again, from talking to the people at the state, that this is appropriate every quarter for us to send this to you. So the only thing you and I gotta deal with is timing.
Right.
I think we'll have, at the end of the quarter, since this is not tied to the town books, we should know pretty quick. We should have this for your meeting. When would you be meeting? March, April? After the first quarter, April?
Yeah,
All right, so we should have this for that.
yeah.
All right, so if you just want to quickly peruse this, I wanted to point out that the starting balance was $461.91. And then we ended the year with a balance of $705.74. That's how you read this chart. And then you can see where did the deposits come from and where did the expenses go to.
It's excellent, thank you.
Well, it's a start, and so if there's something you don't see that you'd like to see, I can try to deal with that, but not for right now, for the next quarter. I'll just tell you, we finished this last night.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's good, I mean, I understand we need to let this committee know from a gross basis, all the receipts that the town gets and how they're spent, right? So this is whether or not it's part of the tax money.
No,
Okay, so that's that. Do you have any questions on that part?
no.
No? Do you have any? You have some, later on, you know how to reach me out, happy to talk to you. This one now, you can see a different format done by a different person, but it's the same idea. This is the trustee account. And so we started the year, beginning balance with $387.78, and we ended the year with $246.83.
64.
I'm sorry, $64.83. And then you can see, again, where did the deposits come from? Where did the expenses go? And the big item on both of these sheets is the ARPA grant. ARPA grant. And you can see we have an ARPA grant 2826, where we received the money and then we sent the money over to Cape. And that's where all the money was spent. And you can see, if you look back at the director's account, you'll see the second line down under deposit says grants. And that's the ARPA grant 2826. And And then you can see under expenses, grant-specific expenses, 28.31.80. So that's how they fit together. And then you can see where we, if and when we transfer funds, this is how we do it. So the other thing, just so you know, from internal control, we have the library director doing fiscal. Who better knows the details of what comes in and what goes out, since she's doing this. And is coordinating with Karen Johnson, our treasurer, to make sure that we have oversight of what she's doing by the treasurer. And the treasurer is producing a trustee account report. And it's something I've discovered here somehow. Got into transferring money directly to the director, and that is, in my world, not appropriate. The funds should come to the trustees, then, so you have an audit trail.
Right, yeah.
It's not a lot of money, it's a little bit of money, but it's a practice that we have to watch. Okay, so this is then how the trustees spent their money, or the money, passed through our hands. And you can see, in one case we have spent down the balance, and the other one we have a little bit bigger balance than we started with. And that's just, and now the next thing, next year, my plan is that we will bring you a plan for the following year to the extent we can develop one. I didn't have time to do all that.
If you're planning on programs or
Well,
things
for
like that.
example, we're gonna end the year with $700 in the director's account. Since we have the money, what would we like to do with that money? So I would say mostly books, but at more than one person, we haven't agreed on that. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you probably will not be able to answer it, but it's a question to go back and research. The Fogel gave the library $1,600.
1,500. Total donations, $1,500.
They only gave you
In the second quarter.
in the second quarter.
There it is.
No, all right, no. The thing being is, all right, their report that came out, when did they do the lasagna?
February.
Yeah,
Or March, February.
Yes, February.
No, it was March. It was March, it was after election day.
it was March, I think.
Yeah,
I kept slipping.
yeah.
Right, so that got that, the thing being is, that money that got raised was over $1,500.
Yeah.
And what they had stated, not the library now, what Fogel had stated was all that was being turned over to the library.
I don't know what they made of it. I think that this is actually more.
Yeah, they made more than the 1,500,
But,
according to what,
so let me just say this to you. That is a problem I'll bring to Fogel. It is not my, or the library problem. This is a Fogel question. They raise the money, they raise it in their, the lecture does, they raise it in their name, right? We don't have any oversight, really authority.
no, but now, what they said, George, just to give you
No, I hear that.
insight is, what they said was they were raising that, all that money that got raised was going towards the gross basis money.
Okay.
And Elena took and posted how much they had made and how much they were given. That's why I'm just questioning.
I don't know, I have to go back and check.
No, and I said that I
I
didn't.
was just had to get $1,500, to tell you the truth.
Is that something they posted on Facebook or something they published?
Oh.
It was on Facebook.
Okay, because I seem to remember at the time Amy Jacques talking about how it was just under $1,500.
Well, that's what they
And
said.
Fogel agreed to chip in whatever it was,
The
they changed to make it
The opposite of what you're
1,500.
saying.
Yeah,
They didn't raise
Yeah.
1,500, it was 1,465 or
something like that, yep.
But I'll find out.
Yeah.
Let me get the details and answer your
Right.
question.
Yeah,
Since it's been raised, we should get the answer. But that's my understanding, too. They just made it around.
right, the way I had read it, it was, originally that's what they said they made, but then at the end, when they came up with another total.
As I remember, if I remember this thing back there, there were expenses that they had to reimburse and hadn't counted that. So maybe they thought they made 1,600, but then they had to pay out more expense.
Yeah, it could be.
I forget who it was that put in a late claim.
Well, that could be, but the thing being is that
I'll find out.
that's very misleading when they publish
If you-
that
if you
number.
advertise
And
it,
it's,
to me, that's a commitment personally,
right, yeah,
but let me check.
yeah, because I mean, they say we're giving you X amount of dollars, and then it comes out into your report that you only received 1,500, then there's questions that go on everywhere.
Well, I can tell you, we got 15. That I know. Woo, that part I know.
Yes,
Believe me. Any other questions?
no,
No? You wanna, any time in the future, you have more, I don't know.
No.
And you'll get this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Come the first.
I will say that this, what you have submitted is much easier to read than what we've received before.
Well, you told me you were getting it, I'll just say, you told me you were getting information, I did not remember that at all.
Yeah,
Really, not at all. But I then went back and dug around, I saw what it was, and I thought, how can anybody use this?
it's nothing good.
It's like too much, you know what, too much data and no information?
Yeah,
So I've tried to, because I did this, because I want this. And we need to be able to report it.
right, yes.
Anything else that's taking too much?
No,
Anything else?
that's it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
For
George.
your consideration.
Good job. And I'll shrink this down, hopefully it'll fit on one paper in here. Hopefully add to this.
Are you collecting these?
Hopefully it'll fit on.
Since you're looking
And
at
when
this,
I can copy this, I'll have it two
See you later.
sides. I just did it today.
Right, yeah, just,
So then this is just standard. We did have a couple of changes that as we go through this, you'll be able to see on the numbers pages. But I made the changes over here so that we can see the whole thing here. There's no changes on here, this is all done. The changes are all encompassed here. So I tried to do a little bit of explanation about the gross basis and the checking account reporting. We have the ambulance, and that is just their expenses. Hopefully, as we have gotten this from the library, that they'll be able to do a report that will also show the revenues. Because that's what we're supposed to be looking at also, not just expenses, but the revenues, and how the revenues and the expenses all fit together. So that's why I just stuck that in there, because we do have it from the ambulance. And then I just put the beginning balances, we don't have anything but, again, hopefully next year. And I'll change the library then, since we do have their papers, I'll make a change in that.
Did you ask anyone for the recycling?
Recycling what?
Because the recycling revolving account, you say here that you have no further information.
Yeah, we
Because
don't,
Donnie Campbell should have numbers on every revolving account.
I think Sue does too.
Yeah, Sue has access to them as well.
but we hadn't received them. These are things that we're supposed to receive, so we hadn't received them, so that's why I just did it. I didn't know that they had all this information, I know that they had it for the town report. But like, we kind of need to do this before the town report, and the end of year's numbers will be out around the 10th, which will be before the hearing, so we can have those final numbers
Yeah.
then, but I just don't have them now.
Sure.
I mean, they don't have final numbers yet for this year. So that's just why so when we come to the hearing time, we can have those final numbers, and we can be sure to get that account information, because we haven't had it at the
I
time.
mean, I do have a temporary list of the final numbers.
Books aren't closed yet.
No, but I have a temporary
Okay.
list.
All right. So that's included in the tax collector and then just a little few words. Tax collector and town clerk. And then I had gotten from Sue, I asked Sue if she had any of the cleaned up proposal things, because mine are all written over and all. So she kindly sent them over to me. I took out the spaces where they had the year-to-date, again, because one had October, one had November, one had December. But for the hearing, we'll have the final numbers, and people can write them in if they want.
Did her numbers jive with yours?
Hmm?
Did her numbers jive with yours? Or haven't you gone through it with a fine tooth comb yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But there were changes, and as we go through, as we see here on the cemetery, the cemetery appropriation was listed on what she sent me as $7,900, but it was really $8,150. And the $250 was because of stone resetting. The appropriation really was $500, but somehow during the year it got changed over to $250, and that's why it was down $250. The real appropriation is $8,150, and that is what I put over here. Because these numbers had to come up to $1,160,886.
Right.
And it didn't add up on like that. And the other one was with the $322 with selectmen. That was a change too. And you can see it in the numbers that I did here. Going back to where it's the selectmen, and I have the paper, I kind of crunched it down. I darkened the numbers, which are the subtotals. So that's why the numbers at the end look darker. But that $322,686, that's because of the health agencies. And we were fooling around with that last year, and it wasn't added in, and then it was added in. It is on the MS 737. It does need to be included in here, and it was. But I think that this is not a spreadsheet kind of thing, so it doesn't get automatically added up. And when it got added up, that $9,000 was not included in the adding somehow. So it is not $313,000, it's really $322,000 for that. And I did make that change over here on the appropriation as well. And then it all does add up to the $1,160,886. So those were the only two changes for that one. On the request line, there are two changes as well. Because of the police budget, Russell put in for the selectmen one budget. And then,
And he came to you guys with a different one again?
yes, and he came in with the 240.
At what point does the budget committee feel responsible to communicate that back to the select board?
I didn't know that we needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going so fast.
I know, my head is spinning too, she has gone so fast, I haven't written down
Sorry.
3 words she said, I gotcha. But she's talking about all
Well,
these
because I've
changes.
been living these numbers for 2 weeks.
Yeah, she's talking about all these changes that have happened, and
Well, those are the,
none of this has come back to the selectmen. We have no idea what changes you've made, other than the ones I've personally communicated back because I was here for the meeting.
well, but these are our numbers. Are we, when we're done, we're supposed to bring our numbers back to the selectmen? I mean, I didn't know that. Is that what you usually do? I mean,
Well, the thing being is,
we did our add-ups and I went ahead.
right, we do our thing, but I think we rely on the selectmen's ex officio to go and take any changes back.
Well,
And I think that's, as far as my understanding, is that's what the selectmen's ex officio,
Ought to do, but doesn't. And the other thing is that, I know for the last couple of years, well, when I was taking minutes for you, I always made sure I communicated everything back with Sue. Otherwise, Sue is in the habit of going through the minutes from your meetings and going in and updating her electronic copies. With the way minutes have been done this year, we've not been able to keep up with what's going on. And
but normally what happens is after we get all the numbers done, I go back in and I sit with Sue and show her,
After the budget hearing?
no, before.
Prior to that, okay, okay. Because I've noticed there are a few changes that this budget committee has made contrary to what the selectmen felt was the right thing to do. And it would be nice if we had an opportunity to come back to you at some point before the budget hearing and say, listen, this is the reason we did this. And I understand that should be the ex officio's job.
But at the same token, we do not stop the selectmen from coming back. If they see numbers that.
Right, but that's just that we don't see them, we don't know. So looking at the minutes that Maureen had taken, it's extremely hard to figure out what happened. I'm sitting here today, I'm looking at the numbers that you just handed out in this handout. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 department budgets that do not jive with the numbers I have, based off of the information I was able to get back. So,
What is the problem? What are you objecting to? What numbers are wrong?
well, I don't need to take us down that rabbit trail just now, because you already took us in 4 different directions.
I didn't mean to, we can slow down. It's
But
fine.
yeah, it's, you're saying that this was done wrong, and that was done wrong, and this is done wrong, and I'm looking at it all.
Well, they're
going,
changes.
Wait a
These
second,
were
what?
changes that had to be incorporated in order for the numbers to work, yes.
Yes, but you get down to the health agencies, and I mean, that was the.
That's why
I was
that's why I
lost, and then I'm looking at your thing for health agencies, and
I didn't say the page number. It is on page number 9.
Right, but the thing being is,
I don't see what the problem is.
well, I do.
Okay, thank you,
The
tell me.
problem is that the appropriation here adds up to $313,686, but that's not really what it was. It really was $322,686, and that's because the $9,000 for the health agencies was first taken out last year, put back in, taken out, so it was not included in those totals.
But I thought,
Last year, yes it was.
So the numbers,
It was the year before that it was
if you
taken
add
out.
these numbers up, you will come up with 322,000, not 313,000.
but I thought,
My spreadsheet says 323,042.
Well, ours is
And my spreadsheet doesn't have-
322,686, and that's what was on the warrant last year. So,
Oh, last year, I'm sorry. Last year's, yes, 322,686, that's what my spreadsheet says.
Right.
This year's, I have 323,042.
well, we have something different
I
with
know.
that then also. Because what was originally the budget request for this year that was for the selectmen was $319,537. It ends up being $320,707, so that's a change in that selectmen's one also. Because of the $130, it was a typo, right? The first one had
Right, yeah,
$130
exactly. Yep,
for the postage and it needed to be
Right.
changed to $1,300.
Right.
So that's why that has changed also.
Yeah, with that 1,300 instead of 130, my spreadsheet tells me the total's 327,442.
Well, we don't have that on any of these papers, and what we ended up with was 316,307.
Which reminds me, I have 2 changes to ask you to make to the selectmen's budget. We finally got a number from Plodzik and Sanderson for the audit, and it's gone up $800. So the cost for that this year will be $14,000 instead of $13,200.
all right, my reply to that is, don't go see the town welfare.
Are we making changes now? This is a new
I'm
budget.
bringing it to your attention.
budget
If you don't
submission.
change it till the budget hearing, or before the budget hearing, that's fine. I just wanted to let you know. And the other thing was we were going to request that under general government buildings, phone, fax, internet increase by $1,000 to make that a $3,800 line item, because we are having internet installed in this building. But before we get off on what I'd like to change beside this, I'd like to figure out where we're different now. There's no, that's 300, yeah. Insurance. $110,000 for insurance. I didn't update my spreadsheet. That did drop, didn't it?
We have 103,
I
we
think that
left
was
it
my
for
mistake.
what you,
Yep.
recommended. And it might be that the budget committee does not always agree with what the selectmen have. That is why the budget committee meets.
No, I completely get that, but just when, if we sent you numbers and didn't,
I don't know,
we
I
were
work-
told that they changed.
I work with the only numbers that I have. And I think that maybe let's wait to make these few changes until
Sure.
the public hearing, so I'm not fooling around with these numbers and redoing the whole thing and then redoing it again. This is very labor intensive.
It is, Pam, trust me, I know.
So I
know.
would prefer to make the change all at once. I have made a note on here, so hopefully we will have that in consideration, but I don't really want to go through this two more
I
times.
don't have anything written down here in my notes that lowers that insurance line item, and I'm not sure why that would be different. I think that's the only thing that's different, that's where the discrepancy comes in. Yeah. Yeah, 103,265, and that was never, even the spreadsheets I have, that was what Sue printed out for us for our budget workshop. That should have been exactly what got passed over to you. That line item is $110,000.
Well, that's not what was passed to us, so. We can make more changes. And those were the main changes, those four that I had mentioned. Other than that, everything's just fine.
I need this 103, what's your number? 103,265.
And I did mention all those changes in the whiteout.
316, 307, yeah, that would be right, that would be the.
And I tried to,
Your math is right, I just did
I
that.
tried
line
to
item.
point out the changes that were made from the requests and where the budget committee did have differences with the selectmen. There are some instances where we have not the same number as selectmen, but that's all. And at the end of each one, I did put the total number that the budget committee is recommending.
I don't see anything in the minutes either talking about that line item. Which is really odd too, because
Yeah.
that's not something you guys would ever just mess with for no reason.
All right,
What's
so,
that?
Insurance, the cost of
That's
insurance.
the number, Cindy, that's the number that was on the paper when we received it.
insurance is.
90,000 was paid this year, and 103 is 13,000 more than that.
Yeah. It's 103,265 for insurance.
Everything I've got is 110. But that's what Sue printed out for you?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to ask her what she did.
Because 90,000 was spent, so it's still 13,000 more.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's, mine, for some reason I have a copy that doesn't have that number. I don't know. I got it from Sue. I don't know.
Well, that's why I called out my selectman thing.
Yes,
and,
thank you. Okay.
Went down through it because, I mean, that just shows that we're not taking numbers.
Yeah, no, I didn't think you were, and I said,
No, I know, but
I
that's
know
just
it's not
that.
even a number you guys would ever like willy-nilly just cut
No,
for no reason.
no,
That's not the
no.
kind of thing you would do with insurance, because
no,
insurance cost is the insurance cost.
insurance,
and
right,
that-
yeah.
Well, and those were basically the changes that Russell had too. It was with the dispatch fees, and it was with retirement or something like that. It wasn't something that he just decided he was gonna make changes. He came up with more up-to-date numbers or something.
Okay, thank you. So what else, I'm sorry, what else did you start off saying you was?
Those were the only, those four things. It was, in the appropriation line, the 8150, not 7900, which was on these
Cemetery.
proposed papers for the cemetery, and the selectmen had to be 322 for the appropriation, not 313, which was on the proposed papers. So that was two changes, and then it was Russell's, and also on the selectmen's request, because the selectmen request that we have is 319,537, but then when you did the other change, when you put the 1,300 instead of
Right,
430,
Yep.
it brought it up to 320. So
Right.
that was the only change. And those were the only four changes from anything that we had on papers and talked
Okay.
about.
Thank you.
Other than that, it was straightforward of numbers that we had come up with. And I just made those changes so that it looks good, and they're the correct numbers on the papers, rather than putting the other numbers and saying there had to be changes. No,
Sure.
that was not right. So,
The only thing I see, just let's have it with the front page is the appropriation for 2021 and 2022, and then the approved. I think that you should take and add over there, a fourth line showing the gross basis money.
that is all taken into consideration
Right,
in
but-
these write-ups. It gets very confusing, that has nothing to do with the MS 737. It gets very confusing when we did that. And that was the problem last year with that $9,000 and other numbers, that doesn't need to be here. The write-up for the gross basis is here, gross basis departments, and then in the back, in the write-ups here, I also have the gross basis enumerated in here as well.
But you understand it that way. The taxpayers, when they take and they look at this,
We have never done that. It has never been part of the public hearings. Oh, yeah. No, it can't be. It's too confusing. It's not, and it's not correct to put it there. It makes it much too confusing. That's why it's not. It's in the write-up part. This makes it very confusing, and that's not correct to do that.
why is it not correct to do that?
Because it makes it too confusing. These gross basis numbers are not part of the MS 737 and the revolving accounts. They're two separate things. And so that's why we don't put them together.
No, they are that, because
When we put the ambulance here, the ambulance we have, what this is this is our operating budget.
right.
And the gross basis, the only gross basis that's interfering with the operating budget is the tax collector and the town clerk. And that's because of her fees. And the reason that her fees are implicated in this gross basis is because those fees are not taxpayer money, but they are shown in the operating budget because they are income, they're revenue, which does show as income for the town on the MS 737.
Right.
So that's why the fees are enumerated, and I did enumerate them in both the write-up for the gross basis, and I also enumerated it back in the write-up for each department. And that's where then it belongs to see it. It makes it much too confusing. It doesn't have anything to do with these numbers in the front here. These are just totals, and these are the totals that are going to appear on the MS 737.
Yes, but you can look at it that way. I'm looking at it the way the average Joe.
No, this is
And the
very
way that-
confusing. This doesn't have anything to do really with it.
It does, it's gonna show,
It shows back here in the write-up. And when we go through it and when we talk about it at the public hearing, that's where it will come up. And it will be enumerated. I got the tax collector and the town clerk right here. And I've got in the back here, I talk all about the gross basis for the ambulance. Right there, the gross basis, the total added from the operating budget and the revolving account. The total then is $51,994, so it does show. But it does not interfere with these because these numbers are the solid standard numbers that we have to have on the MS 737.
but the gross basis numbers follow on,
And they do. I've got them all taken care of right here.
on the MS,
Not on the MS 737.
yes, it does.
No, we don't put those on there.
We have to put them on there. If,
Well, show me in the MS 737.
if we
where
do
it
not
has
put it
the-
on there, then we, the library, the cemetery, ambulance, and
For
everything.
the ambulance, we have $22,000 for the approved budget. Last year it was $21,000. It says nothing about the other revolving account because that is not part of the operating budget. Those monies do not show on the MS 737.
It does.
No, they don't.
Because if
That's why we need to have these separate accounts here accounted for. That's why the library has done this. That's why the ambulance has done this.
Yes, but if it don't show on the MS 7, right?
They did, well, the tax collector in town clerk does.
So does all these other gross basis. Because if they do not,
Show me
I
then on
will.
the operating budget where that shows.
I will, because if it's,
Can't, because this is the total without it.
if it does not show on that MS 7, then the library can't spend that money.
Yes, they can. This is
If
two
it's not
different
raised
things.
and appropriated, Pam, it cannot be spent.
It's two different things. It's the money that's on the operating budget that's raised and appropriated. The other expenses that go along with the revolving accounts are not raised and appropriated. They are not taxpayer money. They are not offset by the revenues that the town receives. They are separate monies, they are separate funds, and that's why they're separated, and that's why they don't add up all the totals and make it confusing on here.
But
Really.
I actually honestly think you have it completely backwards. I think the town clerk and tax collector fees should not be included, because if that money
It
doesn't
must.
come in, it doesn't go out.
The money does come in, it's all part of the MS 737. It has to be included because it's on the MS 737. It's part of the operating budget and it's part of the revenue that comes into the town, to the town checkbook, or whatever you call it, your general fund.
Okay.
It does not come to the revolving accounts and the library accounts, those are separate. They are not part of the operating budget.
Okay, do perpetual care for me.
Perpetual
Cemeteries.
care. That's going to be cemetery. The cemetery gets their money from the trust funds. And what does the library do with that money? That's up to the library, and it just needs, if you don't have a checkbook, then you don't have to do, beginning balance and all that. But there is the space for you to make the note. We received X dollars from the perpetual care. We have turned that money over to the town checking account. And that's what did you say? It's $1,000 for this year. That's what that $1,000 then does go onto the operating budget because the money is going to be deposited into the town account and is going to be accounted for on the MS 737. So that's why it is included. It's included in this total. The 8150 includes that $1,000.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
show in there.
It does
You
show
really do
in
need
there.
to do it together.
It is.
And honestly, this whole gross basis thing, I think, not telling you how to do your job or anything like that, Ed, but just a suggestion, I think the committee could pretty much meet monthly throughout the year and try to hash this out, because this has been a problem for how long?
But it's
And it
not a
doesn't seem to
problem.
ever get solved.
It's not a problem.
But it still is, because I'm telling you,
It's not.
what you printed out here, you understand.
Yes. Yes, and that's how you
People
show
who come
on
to
the
the public hearing
37.
are not
Not
gonna
going
get
to
that
Yes, they will.
whatsoever.
Yes, they will.
No.
It's very easy.
It's easy in your eyes. And
It is. What numbers are not included on there? The cemetery is included, the tax collector and town clerk, gross bases are included. The ambulance, gross basis monies are not included. We have the $22,100, that's the amount of money that they are requesting for the operating budget on the 737 that gets offset by the revenue that comes into the town, and then whatever goes over, the rest goes over to the taxpayers. The other gross basis part, this revolving checking account part, that has nothing to do with the operating budget. It's separate, and it's over here, it's separate. Does the
In
town?
some ways, she's making some valid points, because when has ever the Parks and Rec revolving account been accounted for in the
there's a
budget?
difference. Revolving versus gross.
I understand.
Yes,
But
it's two
she's
different
talking
things.
about, the ambulance is a revolving account. That is a revolving account. The recycle center is a revolving account.
And Parks and Rec. And
And
that's
Parks and
why,
Rec.
that's why we need to have the quarterly
How is that different from the library accounts?
Because the
they,
library has, their own separate checking account. It's not controlled by the town.
Right. But it's still money that is still unanticipated funds
Exactly.
that's right.
No, it's
that they're allowed to
anticipated.
spend as they see fit. Aside from their trust funds, because they have both checking accounts and trust funds.
That's
Right.
right.
Yes.
But when they receive, I don't know if they've taken the money from the trust fund. If they did, then that would show, because then they would receive it into their checking account. So that's why we need to do the quarterly reporting for the revolving accounts and for the library, so that we can see how those checking accounts, because we have to know, we have to understand, budget committee needs to understand the revenues and the expenses associated with those revenues, not only for the operating budget, but for those checking
Right,
accounts, for
because,
all the money that comes into
With
the
the,
town
with
departments.
the library, the unanticipated money is money that comes in throughout the year. They have free will to do
Mhm.
the way that's spent.
And so does the Parks and Rec, and so does the ambulance, and so does the recycling. They have free reign to do with that money what they want. That is not taxpayer money. That is not appropriated.
Yes and no, because the way the ambulance budget is set up,
Right, because
those are all necessary costs to keep that department running, and they have agreed to use that
That
revolving account money to offset
That's
the
right.
budget.
Okay.
that
Did
was
they turn?
set, that was the way it was set up from the very get-go.
Yep,
That was the purpose of
right,
All right.
it. So,
exactly.
that's where,
Fine.
Right.
there's a difference.
They have, the ambulance receives money that they deposit into their revolving checking account.
Yeah.
Yes,
Do they write checks to the town to
No.
turn money over to the town?
No.
Or do they
that's how
pay?
he handles
The-
it.
Right, the town,
Well, the town handles it, but
the town handles the checking.
the town handles the checking account, that's right. But those expenses come out of the revolving account,
So when
not
there's-
the town budget.
When they fill out a request for payment, on the ambulance department ones at the top, it says operating budget or revolving account. And they circle one or the other.
That's right.
And we have
Fine.
stapled into the little folder there, which is supposed to come from where, so we can check and go,
Check.
yep, that's the right place, yep.
All right, that's
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah,
that's right. But that's why we need the quarterly reports from the revolving accounts, so that we can see, we're sort of like a checks and balances entity, really. Just that we can oversee how things are going, like we have gotten from the library.
right.
That's the difference in these two, it's apples and oranges, they're two separate things.
I think we got a whole fruit basket going here, and that's
Yes.
why it's so hard to make
Exactly,
a rule
yes.
to apply, because,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we got bananas and pears and
Right,
peaches and
yes.
grapes and.
No, we have two separate things. We have the town budget, and then we have these other checking accounts, and it's all taken into consideration in here. So, I don't know, call the lawyers, find out. But when I talk to the lawyers, this is the kind of information that they
Right.
told me that we were supposed to be doing.
Right, but when you talk to the lawyer, and when we talk to and we talk to DRA, who sets
Right, yeah.
the program that says you have to do it this way, which is that,
Well, we are doing it this way.
I
It's
think
just
the
a
DRA
little
is a
bit-
much better source than the
Right.
HMA for
Yes.
this, for
It's
budgeting.
a little bit different way of looking at it, that's all. It's the same information, it's just a little bit different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I'd have to sit down and really read through this and analyze it, but I'm not terribly concerned that we're gonna end up in a place like we did almost last
Right,
year at Deliberative, where we could have ended up shooting ourselves in the foot for a couple $100,000 by not having,
right,
not officially raising and appropriating what we need.
We
Yeah,
are
with
raising and
inflation
appropriating
at
what
the
we
rate
need.
it's at this right now, and God knows how much worse it could get. I'd be really scared that we would end up having to go take out a tax anticipation note that you slashed our ability to pay any interest on.
Huh? We haven't had a tax anticipation note since we've done twice a year billing.
Correct.
And we're still
Oh,
doing
it's
twice a
actually
year
been once or
billing.
twice since then, but it's been, you know.
Are we still doing twice a year billing?
yes.
Yes.
It hasn't been a problem that way.
It hasn't been, that's what I'm saying, is if you.
There's
if
always
you're
a possibility.
taking out, yeah, if you're taking out gross basis budgeting from the budgets,
There isn't any gross basis budgeting taken out of this budget. All the gross basis that it needs to be in here is in here. Go through it and see what numbers are left out. There are no numbers left out. The numbers are all.
so right off the top, I see the ambulance department, you have approved at $22,100.
That's right, yes.
There
And how much was it approved for last year? 50,000? No, 21,000, because the other part,
Yeah,
the
and it was
gross
clear.
basis part, the revolving account part is separate. It's not part of the operating.
And that was very clearly stated, and it's not anymore.
What? It is very clearly stated. I stated it right here. Right here on the first part is the ambulance. It tells all about the monies that have come over to be paid, not on the operating budget, but they're going to be paid to help save taxpayers money out of the revolving account. And that's in the growth basis part. And then when we get back over to the department, it says it again, and enumerates it again, and then at the end, it adds it in. It says
Maybe even just an asterisk next to the ones that have those, just so people know to go look somewhere else, this isn't the full story. I just think, you know.
Well,
okay, you want to ask, okay, next to cemetery,
ambulance,
next to, ambulance, okay, but there is not gross basis money included in this. You want to put it next to it, put it next to it, fine. And tax collector and town clerk, those are the only ones that are involved. So those are the four. We can put an asterisk next to it, and then I'll put an asterisk in here. I'll put an asterisk next to ambulance, and town clerk, and cemetery. I'll put asterisks in, that's fine.
Thank you. It's just a suggestion, just to make it kind of
All
clear.
right,
that
that's fine.
Average Joe who comes to the budget committee, budget hearing, just to see, oh, there's more information somewhere.
But there is,
Yeah.
there's a lot of information in here.
right, we're not denying that. The thing being is, you're looking at it from your standpoint, all right? The thing being is, I'm looking at the average Joe, all right?
Well,
So-
this is for the average Joe, it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
When I see all these numbers on here, I am completely confused. There's asterisks here, and there's numbers down here, and some numbers get taken out, some numbers get put back in, and it's very confusing. This way, the numbers are all in, they're there, the explanation is on these other pages, and it's not confusing at all. We can see the numbers, we can see the bottom line.
Yes, but what ends up happening, and I pray that it never does, if the ambulance never get, if they end up losing their revolving account, right? So they get no money out of it. And then all of a sudden, the ambulance budget goes from 22,000
Then it's gonna go back
To
up.
50,000.
up
The
to
whole
50,000.
$59,000 will show here.
Yes,
That's right.
but the thing being is, the people are gonna say, why is it jumping from 22,000 up to 50,000?
Because the ambulance doesn't have anything more in their revolving account, that's why.
Yeah.
But they've got almost $100,000 in there or something. They've got a lot of money in there, so they shouldn't run out this year. If during the year they stop making those insurance, they get the money from the insurance companies, if they stop doing that during the year, then their budget will look different next year. They will not have $29,000 in the revolving account, they'll have $59,000 in the operating budget, and that's just the way it'll be.
I understand that, but if people are gonna say, if they look at, oh, the ambulance had 22,000 for 2022 to spend. 2023 comes, they've got no money left in their revolving account. It jumps from 22 up to 50. People are gonna say, why did it jump from 22 to 50?
And it'll be written right in there because there was no more money in the revolving account. They were not charging for they were not billing the insurance company.
Yes.
And that will be the explanation, and then the people will see it and understand it.
Yes,
Just like they can understand it in the writing that is here now.
yes. The thing being is, if you were to go around and take a poll of people in town, it's like the town report, right? How many people go through that town report?
And read it from cover to cover.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Even as thoroughly as I read it, I can guarantee you I don't. There's no
Yeah.
skim over.
I'll bet you it's less than 5% that actually go down through and read that whole town report.
Okay.
I understand you, what you've done.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you did a bad job or anything. It's just the way that people in town are not gonna take and go from this page over to all these other pages to look to find.
Well, they can just listen to what we say, because I don't mind explaining every single one of these numbers on the page. I'll explain every single one of them. And we'll have our year-end reports then, so then we'll be able to see how the year-end ended up. But look at them, see them, and if you want to talk further, give me a buzz. But please do it, I guess, in the next couple of days, because I don't want to wait till next Thursday to start redoing this.
Well, what's wrong with that?
And I do want to wait with those numbers, those new numbers that Cindy has set for the selectmen. I'm just going to wait till next week so that we can do it all at once.
Right,
Make
yes.
changes all at once. But I have them on here. And the only other thing that I didn't know about was, I did the FYI page at the back. And has Steve decided that the deliberative session is going to be at 10 o'clock? It's,
I believe so.
I put 10, but
Yeah.
Sue said she hadn't really heard, and so that's something that, if it changes, please let me know.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure he prefers the 10 o'clock time.
Well, it seems to be that we've been doing that for the last few years, and I sure hope he's running.
I can't say for sure, but I don't know of a reason why he wouldn't.
I hope so. Definitely has got more time. He did it when he was working.
Right, exactly.
He's been excellent.
He does pretty good at most everything he gets into.
just so that there's no confusion, on your January 14th for the budget hearing,
Mhm.
you get down at 6 PM, just put it down for 6:30, please.
Oh, 7, should be
6:30.
6:30.
meet, 7 o'clock hearing?
Because at 6:30, we have the budget meeting to go over the warrant articles.
We're gonna start that?
Yes, yes, we have to do it before the public hearing.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be 6, and,
No, 6 o'clock, we try to get set up,
all right, so 6:30 is
Yeah.
gonna be warrant articles.
right. I don't want somebody to read it and say, well, how come it says 6?
No, thank you for bringing it up. That was kind of another thing, really, and then 7 PM for the,
Right,
for the
and then you can add to it that after the public hearing, we will convene and have a budget meeting after that,
all right,
because that's when we make any changes.
yes. Yes, and that's the 14th.
Yeah.
And then the MS 737 needs to be done. And it has to be back to the selectmen by the 27th.
It
But
actually,
we're gonna meet and go over that. You do all that by yourself and we don't meet about it? You always fill that out yourself?
yes, I will meet with you so I can show you where the gross basis money plays in there, because it has to be in there. But Sue told you the 27th, and I told her she should never have told you the 27th.
That's when the selectmen have to have it back by.
Right, but the thing is, she has to have it before then to go through it.
She has to
Submit it
put
to-
revenue in.
Right, and she has to submit it to DRA to get approved, and then,
Okay, so, well, we need to review it after she's done with it.
no,
We have to review it when it's done so that we can see we have an understanding of what it is
when we,
before we sign it. I'm not signing anything unless I've reviewed it.
when we meet, we will meet with, and Sue will be right there to see it. And,
Well, but that'll be coming up, that'll be after this.
yes,
And then just let me know when we're gonna do
yeah.
it. We have, it's almost 2 weeks, because we meet on the 14th and the 27th is almost 2 weeks.
Yes, but I don't like we get a little more leeway this year than what we have had in the past. In the past, we've had 3 days after the hearing. And that puts pressure on
It's good
me,
to have.
trying to get the numbers in there, and then passing it to Sue, and her, putting her numbers in there, and,
Yes, all right.
because then she's got to submit it afterwards.
Okay.
And this time of the year can become very hard on,
Can I throw one more thing at you for,
no,
so you-
because should I duck?
no. Careful. I've been really good at getting my own paper cuts this week. I don't know anybody else.
Yes, please.
I mentioned it to you, but I just want to make sure that Pam's aware of it too. Something else for you to discuss before the budget hearing. The tax collector licensed software line item.
Yeah, so, they went down.
Yeah. And if you want this, you can have a copy of it. She had budgeted $2,900, and we already got the bill in, and it'll get paid next week. It's $2,600, so
Yeah,
that's,
you can just
So
get
what?
a copy of it and put it in my,
right, just give you this one.
all right,
You can have it.
yeah.
Yeah. Unless it's easier for you if I take it in the office and put it in there for you to go pick up another time.
Yeah.
Smart ass.
Anything else?
I think I figured out just about all of these except Russell's.
He,
He
well,
wants to come back and say.
I write in the write-up, I've written down where his changes were. I can show you, I think I should have it here somewhere.
It's
thing, because the whole thing's about, if you can take, maybe you can take the top picture.
You went up on dispatch,
Beautiful.
so you must have gotten something from Hanover that I didn't see. And he went back down on fuel?
Yes.
And we just rounded it up to,
Oh, yeah, because he always includes pennies in there. Yeah, thank you.
I gave him extra 80 cents.
So you took capital expenditures back down to 50. Up on dispatch. Down on fuel. Legals, miscellaneous, postage. You went up on retirement. That's interesting. Did he give a reason, do you remember what his reasoning was for going up on retirement?
Because, yes,
I
because even Sue said that the percentage of,
Yeah,
is-
yeah, that's how we factored it. Based on the number of current employees in the police department.
But see, even his request and the selectmen's recommendation is the same. 4405.
Right, but then Pam's got here 42,125.
Isn't that what's on his new paper? That's the one that we did approve.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, no worries. Happy to do it whenever I'm here.
And what was the other one you said we were going?
What? Russell?
Yeah.
Changes from the original budget. Dispatch fee line increased $3,875.
Yeah.
Fuel line decreased $466. Retirement line increased $1,720. And I did account for the fact that he had come and that the selectmen had passed it with the original one, and then there was this change. I tried to incorporate all the changes to bring them out so people could identify them and see them amongst all these numbers.
Oh, he gave you guys a nice little explanation and everything. We didn't even get that this year. All he brought us was a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it says the retirement pays for each officer is determined as a percent of the officer's annual pay. The town must pay 33.88% of the proposed wage line. That's where we got the 42.
Okay. I'll touch base with him on that. That's interesting. And then obviously he got something from dispatch too. I'll have to ask him about because
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of
He
that.
was talking about all those numbers changing. They went up.
Right, he did it, but normally he would come back and let us know that too, but he didn't, but I know he's got a lot going on.
because when he met with you guys, he did not have the,
He didn't have the dispatch number yet, for sure,
Right.
that I know, yeah.
yeah, and I went and talked to him, asked him, and he did get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Do the selectmen have the formula or know how to figure out what the dollar impact is for,
Like per thousand on your
Yeah.
property taxes?
Yeah.
Yes, they do,
Yes.
but,
it used to be 125,000, but one more dollar on taxes, but that was many years ago, so we can still use it as a gauge. But every $125,000, one more dollar on taxes,
right, yeah,
on the tax rate.
and I forget what it went up to.
But that was quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
There must be a formula for it.
There is,
Is that that three-finger thing?
yes.
I always forget how that works.
Yes, oh. Anything else? Selectmen have anything to?
I have a question regarding the minutes that Pam handed out.
All right.
The 12:27 minutes,
12:27 minutes, okay.
down towards the bottom, second to last bullet point, the budget committee needs a minute taker. This position will pay at least $15 an hour unless the last pay for this position was higher, then that will be the pay rate. The budget committee, to my knowledge, doesn't have a budget of its own.
The budget committee, isn't that hypocrisy?
Sorry, you guys are throwing in,
The budget committee,
are you throwing the money in a pot to pay this person?
no, that it just has to be paid. That's what I said.
It just
to
has
them.
to be paid.
I mean, really? The budget committee doesn't have to put in a budget? Really? No. They're whatever
Yeah.
their bills will be paid, which I think that we should. I think that we should put in, because if they're gonna be charging for classes, if we have 2 new people coming on, that should be $140, but the people should take the classes. And then if we are gonna need to have a minute taker, that can be, and if she's gonna do all this stuff, it could be $1,000. So I think that that should be something the budget committee does, even though they said, no, the budget committee doesn't have to.
The money comes out of the executive,
Was it added to the executive budget and the selectmen's budget?
No.
Were the selectmen asked if they would be willing to hire someone, because we have oversight on all hiring and firing in town? Were the selectmen asked if this position could be created?
I thought it was a creative position.
No.
We've been getting a
But the
break
position
because of you for the
It
last
had
couple of
been.
years.
It had been.
right,
It never showed, budget committee never showed it as a line item.
No.
no,
I think it should. That's my point. I think it should. I think that we should put in.
I don't disagree. If you've got to hire people and
That's
you've
right.
got training to be paid
And
for,
I
I
think
don't
it should be
disagree.
planned on. I think it's,
But it's not here.
it's not. That's what they said. They said, doesn't the budget committee have to put in a budget for that? No. So that is something that does not have to be appropriated. Go figure.
It does have to be appropriated. And
No, it
this is what I'm saying, it has to be appropriated in the selectmen's budget because you're assuming we will pay for it out of the executive line item.
I don't need to
But
know
you
that.
didn't ask us to do that and you did not add money
But
into
we
that
don't.
line item to cover it.
But we don't have to. We don't have to. That's what I asked them.
Oh my
I
goodness.
said, why don't we have to put a budget in for this?
I'm
You said
telling
the
you,
budget
as
committee
the
does
chair
not
of the
have to.
select board, you have to ask us to create a position and hire someone and pay them.
But we
I'm telling
always
you, you
have
have to ask the taxpayers to cover those wages.
That's
You
not
don't have
according
to
the
say
state.
specifically, will you pay for a minute taker? But
Not
you need to
according
put
to
that
the
in the
state.
budget somewhere.
Not according, it never was, and it's not according to the state. There's never been a line item for the budget committee. And there doesn't have to be. But
You're
my
not
point
hearing
is,
what I'm
I would
saying.
like, but my point is, I would like there to be. I think there should be. I mean, this is all coming along now late in this year, but
I said what I had to say. If you have an answer,
yes, I have an answer, and the thing being is, first off, this just came up at our last meeting, and with the, it speak to Sue on that. And I have spoke to Sue on it. And
Okay. Sue did not bring it up to any of the selectmen. We just met last night. It didn't come up.
And I brought it up to her last week,
Okay.
because I asked her, because they wanted to raise the price, because Pam looked it up, and Sandy got paid $12 an hour back when she was doing it. And I thought she was given a raise. I said, but I do not want to take and set anything up until after I go and look. They decided they want to pay her $15 an hour. I went last week and talked to Sue and asked her to, and she said that she was never given a raise more than the $12 an hour.
Okay.
She said that we would have to take it out of that she said any money for something like that would have to come out of the wages under the executive.
Okay. I want to make sure that the select board is made aware of this request.
Yeah, and next year I think that we should put in. But there never has been, but we could put $1,000 line item in for the budget committee, so there's at least something there. But they didn't used to charge for classes. This is all something new, at least to me. I don't know when they started charging.
I've never, from the first time I got hired or
Yeah, but
elected
before-
cemetery trustee, I've always paid.
No, but when I first got on here, they were free.
Right, yeah,
They had nice lunch. It was always very
right,
nice.
yeah.
Of course.
Now they charge the same price and they don't provide you a free lunch.
Well, that's
You
right.
don't even get a book anymore.
I know, I've complained about it, and I have to use my own printer to print the stuff off, materials off.
But then the classes before were
Did
free.
they? Oh, okay.
You'd be able to go down. You couldn't do them like you do now on
Online,
online.
no,
You had to go down there
Right.
and register.
Which is how they used to do them all, I mean, even as long as I've been like a cemetery trustee,
Right,
they were all in person and
right, exactly.
they hand you your little folder full of information as you walk in, grab a donut and a coffee and have a seat.
Right,
Yeah. Now for the same price. At
right.
least you don't have to get dressed, I guess.
Well, the thing is now they're saying, well, we don't have to plan a meal. We don't have to. Yeah.
Rent a space.
They have the places donated to them.
Usually, yeah.
And so they're saying, well, we don't have to have somebody go in and clean up after they take and leave. So if we can do it online, people could take and see it, and we make that much more money. It's just like the government.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And they raise
That's where they look.
And they
Yeah.
raise their rooms too. Yeah.
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 Any other questions?
No.
You sure?
Not for me.
Propose it.
Is there something I'm forgetting?
I don't know.
Okay.
Please let me know in the next couple of days about
Yes.
any other things.
Yep. So that's it. Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Catherine? She agreed.